Hello, I'm going to try my best to show you how I'm putting the horns in the center of the helmet. It's kind of time consuming, so I'm not entirely sure I'm going to cut this. There's going to be a lot of jump cuts. Sorry. I should be talking through most of it though, so you'll get a good idea of how I'm doing it. I've already got 3 of them done on here, if that sees it any better. I'm going to do the 4th one. I did the earlier ones because they're small enough. It's really hard to see what I'm doing. What I have is these sculpted pieces of Sculpty. It's a clay that you can use at home, cook in your oven at like 200 degrees, and it works just fine. It's nice and hard. So that's what I'm using for this, and I'm just covering it in leather, and I'm using 1 ounce leather. You have to make sure that you're using a leather that'll actually work for being pulled over and shrinking down. So it needs to be a vegetable tanned leather. If you use a chrome tan or something else, it doesn't work. But where's the 4th one? Okay, so this is the 4th one. I think I'm actually going to do the 5th one. So I'm actually going to do the 5th one because it's pretty large and you can see what I'm working on here. First, what I do is I'm just going to sketch out where I'm cutting off from this chunk of leather I have. And right now I'm just outlining it so that I know how big the stitches need to be. Goes down to there and goes over to there. Okay. And then this way. Then I flip it over and I do another one for the other side. Okay, there we go. And you want to make sure that you cut outside of what you just traced, because otherwise you don't have enough excess to actually stitch with. So I end up cutting a lot off later, just because first time I did this I didn't cut enough, and then I ended up ripping it as I was stitching. So right now I'm just cutting this chunk off of my bigger piece. I end up having tons and tons of scrap doing this, just because it's not a very easy thing to do. So getting it without any scraps is kind of impossible. Okay. So I've got my 2 pieces, and now what I need to do is I need to get them wet. Since I've been working on this enough, my water's really kind of gross colored, but it's just water, and I've, dunked enough pieces of leather in it that it's becoming not clear. So that's why that's all nice and gross. And you don't need to, but I actually just generally leave these in here for a little bit just so that they are nice and soaked while I'm, getting my thread ready. You don't need to, and especially if you weren't planning on having something where it's like if you were just tooling something, you don't want to soak your leather that much. Anyways, hold this. Now I need to get my needles and thread ready. And I've just been doing about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sure. That seems like enough. I want quite a bit extra for a couple reasons. A, I'm not just going over the stitching that's going to be on the ribbing on the horn. It's also going to be stitching it onto the actual centerpiece. Like this is stitched on, and I just used the same stuff, so I didn't have to go and find new needles and stuff. But that's fairly simple. go like this. Not required, but I tie a knot in the end of the thread just so that it doesn't come out of the needle very easily. That being said, if you try and put it back on the needle, it's not going to happen very easily either. So, yay. Come off it. Well, don't come off it. Go in it, actually, is what I want you to do. So, yeah. Right now, just threading needles. Yay, fun. So, they are threaded. And now, I'm taking my sopping wet bits of leather, kind of knock as much water as I can off of them. I need to dump that out and refill it. But, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to poke a hole under where you can almost see where I have my outline here. I'm going to poke it underneath the line of the bottom on both the front and the back on both sides of it, so I can kind of line them up while I'm working on them from the front. If that's it, probably don't need to do this, but it lets me think a little bit easier, so I'm doing it. There we go. And like this. Now, one of the big things that I found out is you have to leave yourself a little bit of space when you're stitching these. If you pull it too tight, the front doesn't actually get across on it. It just ends up being a very nice stitch, which you kind of want, but it doesn't get what the reference is showing. So, is that about where I want those? Yeah, okay. It's good enough. So just lining everything up. There we go. And now it's into stitching. And what I do for this is I'll just stitch it like I do any of my regular leather stitching. But I have my reference right here on my my whiteboard. It's just tacked on with the magnetic tack thing. So I can look in here and find out exactly, okay, so if I'm working on the fifth one, I know that the first one, the cross goes, the top thread goes on the, from the bottom right to the top left, looking at the front of the helmet. And that's how kind of detailed I'm going with this. Or you could just, count how many how many stitches are visible. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches visible on the fifth one. So I'm gonna do 8 stitches on it. And I'll actually grab my pencil and look at and try and put them in the right spot as well. So if there's 1, and guessing here's about as far up as it would be seen, and I need to put 8 stitches in there. I'll just kind of throw them in and see if I can get them to be about the right spot. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there, I have where I'm putting my 8 stitches, and I just drew that on with a colored pencil. Colored pencil shows up really good on wet material, so that's a good thing, I guess. Anyways, I wanted to make sure that I started stitching below where the horn actually is going to go, because you need it to fold nicely in there, and if you don't do it below, it doesn't fold nicely. So now I'm just going to stitch this up. And in order to make it so that the seam pulls inside out backwards the right way, what you need to do is you need to actually do a cross stitch in through that. Oh, I need more. Okay. You also want to make sure that your, laces are the right lengths. So if you can see there's a cross there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Okay. If you can see there's a cross, and you want to make sure that it does that, because when you turn this inside out, if you just have stitches straight across, it won't be nearly as good for pulling it and making it do a seam like that. I gotta line this hole up with this hole again. Okay, and on to stitching. So I've got basically the entire front of it stitched up. There, now you can actually see. I've got the front of it stitched up, and if I turn it inside out, it looks like this, which I need to actually start doing to make sure that it will fit when it's actually turned inside out, like that. And then I have a chance to kind of play with how tight some of these lacings are so I can get them to be the right size in comparison to the horn. Like that one is just, you just can't see it. So I need to pull some lacings from back here forward in order to do that. And then what I'll do is I'll finish lacing up the back end, but the back end I have to lace really, really, really loosely. Because then when if I tighten it all down, if I just start trying to turn it inside out, it won't turn inside out because it's just too small of a space. So I basically lace it, and then there's like threads going back and forth there. Put the horn in it. I actually need to carve the horn down a bit. And then so I put the horn in it, then then pull the laces tight around the horn. Otherwise, I can't get it to fit in there. So that's the next bit. Okay dokie, so that's stitched. It's still inside out. I'm gonna add a little bit more water to it because it's drying out, which is annoying. So I just have a bit of a cloth in here. It's literally just a scrap of, I think it's muslin, but I just use that so I can dab water on and get it a little bit more wet without having to, soak it every time. Anyways, now what I need to do is I need to turn this inside out, and trying to just turn it inside out like this doesn't really work. If I would have tied these together already and secured it, I just end up wrecking a bunch of things and stretching the leather, the holes that are holding the leather a lot, which I don't want to do. So what I'll end up doing is, first off, is I'm going to cut off the excess leather that will be on the inside. You want a little bit so that it holds its, so that your stitching will hold. If you cut too much away, your stitching will just rip out, which is pretty terrible. But you don't want too much, otherwise it just sits in there and gets in the way, and then you have a really funky looking shape, and that's not good. So here I am cutting little tiny bits of leather off. Oh, go away. Don't need you anymore. It's not that I don't love you, but I don't love you. So, especially right up here at the top of the horn, if you don't shave that one pretty close, it gets really hard to make it look anything like flush with the top of the horn part. The other thing I need to do is, because when this folds over, there's going to be this amount of material inside of it. I actually need to shave down the top of the horn as well. So I used it to get me the sizing I needed, and now I'm taking quite a bit off the top, the front and back and top of it. So this entire edge. And I'm just taking my X-Acto knife to it, which is something nice. If you cook it a little bit too long, it gets a little bit more brittle, and you'll end up breaking off chunks more than carving them out, which can be a little bit annoying. So just warning, read the instructions. I actually bake mine slightly different than the instructions say. I cook it for less time with the oven on, and then I just leave it in the oven until the oven's cool. It tends to do a pretty good job of it. So there's my new horn shape, and it's a little bit smaller, and I think I need to take some more off right here. You don't want to take too much off, because then it won't hold its shape, which would be bad, because you want it to hold its shape, considering that's the entire point of this thing. Okay, that looks about right. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to pull these back stitchings, and this is really handy if you have a sail hook that's basically or a sail needle. It's basically a, you know, curved needle, because you can kind of pull the lacing up so that you get a nice big spread at the top. Come on. I need this all the way up here. Thank you. And then spread this again. Make sure that's all nice and stretched. And do it some more. The bigger ones, it takes quite a lot to get enough to turn this inside out without really stretching it a lot. There we go. So now I have it inside out, and it's working mostly how I want it to. Come on. So there's the front of it, which is arguably the, you know, important part. And then here's the top and the back. And right now you can see how the back just the front, oi. And right now you can see how the front has those nice cross stitches on it. Come on, focus. Focus on me and not the background. Thank you. There we go. You can see that? And then the back is just kind of laced over. What we need to do is turn this in like that on both sides and pull those lacings tight so that it does basically the same thing the front's doing on the back, like that. Then once that's done, just stick this in there, and then make sure it stays moist for a little while we cut the hole to stick it in this. Okay, so now I have my hole in there. You can see it. It's all nice and shiny. There's also a bunch of holes that I punched through with the awl so that I can sew this onto it. I already pulled it through once and it was just too big, so I had to pull it out and then redo it with a little bit longer of a strip. And now we'll see if it works this time. Oh, that works so much better. And then see, so much better. Sorry, you totally can't see me working down here. That's really useful. Anyways, pulled that through, like that. Then just shove these in all nice like, so they're underneath it. Bam. Pull this. Ooh yeah, it's already starting to look better than my last one. Well, than the other ones. So there's that. And now all I need to do is lace the is actually literally sew it on. And I want to make sure that I do this while the leather's still wet, because if I do it before the leather dries, it dries without the flat on the sides, and it doesn't have the same look as the one, and it won't be nearly as strong, and that's just not as good. So make sure to keep it wet if you're doing your own, or whatever. I don't know how people view these things. Anyways, yeah. So I stitched it up. I didn't actually film that because it was long and laborious and annoying, and I'm sorry. But basically it's just stitch it like you'd normally stitch stuff, and front to back, around the sides, just like that. And that's how I put a horn on the centerpiece of this. For the ones that go in the 2 rows along the side, they're gonna get stitched in when I put the 2 side pieces together. So those should just go in as I'm doing those. We're hoping. So yeah. Anyways, that's the plan, and that's how I'm doing it. Now all I have to do is I take it and I cut off these bits, just trim them a bit. So that they're not quite so long and annoying. So trim those bits, then I take 2 alligator clips, because I don't want to use like pins or anything that would hurt the leather. These will leave slight indentations on the leather, but that's better than, you know, a hole in it. So they're the best pins I've found so far, and I just pin that on like that, and then I'm just putting one of these up on the top and hanging it facing this really bright halogen light. What that basically does is it cooks the leather a little bit and makes it shrink down so that it works better, or it shrinks better, and makes it like ridiculously hard. It's how you make leather armor. And that's how I put all my horns on my helmet. You can see by the change in camera and just about everything else from what I'm wearing. It's a couple days later, which kind of explains why I have it finished. I got all my horns on it, and they're looking good. So now all I have to do is finish it up for the rest of the helmet and figure out what else I'm doing for the helmet. And there will be more videos on that. If you like my videos, please subscribe. If you have any comments, put them down in the doobly-doo. I will answer them to the best of my ability. If you want to help me costume more or continue to create these videos on how I do it, subscribing helps, but my Patreon account, which is right there, would definitely help me be able to make more of these more often. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun.